You all know Marie. She is a woman who is an advocate, a leader, a strong voice for immigrants and communities of color, and a dedicated public servant here in our city. She immigrated from Haiti as a child and attended the University of Massachusetts Amherst and Boston College Law School. She began practicing law in 1987. She's young and fabulous. In 1999, she went on to represent the 5th Suffolk District in the Massachusetts House of Representatives and served as the vice chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. This historic victory made Marie the first Haitian immigrant to ever hold public office in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She proudly served that district for 12 years. With all of the negative political rhetoric directed at immigrants by our lawmakers in Washington, D.C., by even some of our own community members and neighbors in our own communities, it's important now more than ever that we support our immigrant communities here at home, and that we do so not from just a reactive space, but from a proactive space. We have a unique opportunity to come together with leaders like Marie to listen to them, to get thoughts and ideas about how we support these communities, these rich communities that contribute to our city every single day. And Marie is an inspiration not just to folks who identify as immigrants or those in the immigrant community, but to every single woman who has ever sought political office in the Commonwealth. So I personally thank you for supporting me, and I thank you on behalf of my colleagues on the council, as well as the young girls who aspire to run for office someday. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here tonight. And please stand up and applaud our keynote speaker, Marie St. Fleur.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm only going to take a little bit of your time, but I want you guys to put your hands together. This is a historic moment. We are standing here today, the last day of February 2018, 4 Black women elected to the City Council of the great city of Boston. Come on, ladies. So, Representative Kim Janey, my city councilor, Representative Ayanna Presley, my friend and sister, the president of the City Council, Andrea Campbell, all right? And where's Ms. Lydia Edwards? East Boston. East Boston, girl. That's right. East Boston, all right? And you know what's so wonderful about this? I'm standing here with a young woman who I knew years ago. Her name is Linda Forey, who is the former senator of the great state of Massachusetts, but also with 2 friends. Come on, give it up for Linda. 2 friends of the council. Mr. Flynn, it's good to see you again. Yeah, you know, and you know how his father served, and Mr. O'Malley, you know, and many whom we've walked with in different lives, and we're so glad you're here, and thank you for being here on this last day to celebrate with us. You know, I'm gonna try to be brief, and I gotta say hello to my daughter, because I finally got her to come out for something. Hey, Bree! Hey, Bree! And I'm so delighted to be here. Now, as you notice, I've gotten older, so I'm gonna be taking these glasses on and off, and I'm gonna try to hold it to the 7 minutes, but whatever that I give you, I hope you'll listen, all right? And I wanna, first of all, congratulate all the awardees. I know I recognize Senator, but I want to recognize everyone who's getting an award today for your service and for the amazing work that you're doing. Okay, for the amazing work. I want to tell you something. Black immigrants are not new to Boston. We have been here. We have served. We have helped build this place, and in our tears, our joys, and all that we are very much ingrained in the spirit of Boston. So I never feel any qualms about telling anybody I belong. And that little girl who just stood there and danced with you, she belongs. She belongs. And we all should feel that way everywhere and anywhere in this great city of ours. So I'm going to take us back. See, I didn't grow up when there's a large Haitian community. I grew up with actually very little Haitian community. But I want you to understand why this day is so critical. And I'm going to really use the words of a gentleman. Some of you might have heard. I'm going to use his name often today for this brief moment. John Henrik Clark, African-American from the South, Pan-Africanist. He said, history is not everything, but it is a starting point. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is a compass they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. It tells them where they are, but most importantly, what they must be. And in this moment in time, it is so clear that we as Black people, not simply immigrants, understand what we must be here in the city of Boston. So, we're going to do a quick reminiscence in the quick time I have to talk about that history. Then we're going to take stock a little bit about where we are, and then we're going to do real quickly, just touch on where we must be. Let me tell you, 1638, the slave ships were directed from Newberry Street, all right? They sat as they were figuring out where to send the cotton, where to send the sugar. They were trying to figure out where to send the Africans from the continent. Those ships, many of them left here, right there, South Boston, some of them, and took off to Barbados, and took off to Jamaica, and other places. And they came in contact with many Africans. One of those ships came back with a young woman named Phyllis Wheatley, who we believe was from West Africa, right? And you don't know about Phyllis Wheatley, then shame on you and go figure it out, because you should. One of those ships also brought back a gentleman named Prince. Everybody ever been to Prince Hall? That amazing Mason, that West Indian, who was the first Black Mason, established the first lodge right here in this country, right here in this great city of Boston. That's only in the 1600s. Fast forward the 1900s. Large contingent of Africans came. They were from Barbados. They were from the British Islands. They were from Barbados. They were from Jamaica. They were from Antigua. They were from the British Isles, and they came and they settled here. Remember, you all ever heard about this fruit company? I mean, some of you all, right? Anybody ever heard of them? Yes. So those ships would come back and forth. And guess who would be working in the bows of those ships? Those Africans from those parts of the world. Some of them came here and disappeared here, and some of them came here to stay. And back in those days, they would come in as domestics or skilled labor. You know what some of those skilled laborers were? They were seamstress. They were cooks. They came, and they established life here. You know that place called the West End? You know where now? Charles Street Jail, Mass General. Guess where most Blacks were living way back when? 60% of Blacks in the city of Boston lived in the West End. That's right. And you know, they produced some amazing people. And by the time, by the way, you had an influx, the so-called the blacks that were born here. You had the blacks that came up from the South. And then there were those of us who were immigrants. And we created a stir in the city of Boston. Okay? I'm going to skip forward. By 1920, there were at least 5,000 black immigrants living in the city of Boston. And in that period, 1900 to 1950, those black immigrants produced some amazing people, and I'm going to list them real quickly. So everybody want to say, the person you might be sitting with, you say, oh, she's African American, she's this, no, we're all connected. And we need to stop the nonsense. Stop the nonsense. So, I want to talk to you all about some names you might have heard about. Have you ever heard of a woman named Elma Lewis? Yeah, I'm not going to have to tell you no more. Second generation Barbadian. That's who she is. Have you ever heard, born in 1921, parents immigrated from Barbados. They came here, made a life for each other, and she changed the culture, right, of Boston. And we all, as black folks in Boston, celebrate the gift that she has given to the city, and we continue to do that in song and music and dance and pure intellect, because she did not play. If anybody ever met Miss Lewis, you would not expect not to excel. There was no acceptance of black folks not excelling. She would not have it, and she'd tell you right out. And that's the spirit that we need to recapture. But let's keep moving. Anybody heard Victor Bino? Has anybody heard of the Binos? Okay, the Bino family? Yes. Second generation. You know, when they say second generation in the census, if your parents came here and immigrated and became naturalized, you're born here, your first generation, okay? Or your first generation, if they naturalized you. First generation, Bino. And guess what? He became one of the first black commissioners right here in the great city of Boston. African American, black immigrant, contributed to the wealth and to who we are today and our ability to be here in this room. Let me keep going. Y'all ever heard of a firebrand named Ruth Batson? Born in 1921. Have you ever heard of the Garveyites? Well, in Boston was a strong contingent of Garveyites. And they were all from St. Cyprian's. There was something about St. Cyprian's that bred that, because those British immigrants celebrated who they were. They embraced their history. They embraced their arrogance. It's all right to be arrogant as long as I'm not rude. I can love who I am without insulting you. You don't like my arrogance? Too bad. Too bad. Because, you know, her mama, her grandmama, and her great-grandmama, who probably told her she was somebody, and she wasn't waiting for anybody to tell her who she was. She knew, and she came here and told these young children there was somebody. Amen. You know what Ruth did? So if y'all talk about the first federation of teachers, black teachers, she established that. When you hear about the NAACP and the education committee of the NAACP, talk about Ruth Batson. When you talk about who came and rocked this place because she wanted to be on the school committee and they wouldn't let a black person in. By the way, we did before Reconstruction. After Reconstruction, we had a black person. From Reconstruction to 1960, when O'Brien was elected, no other black person served. But because Ruth in 1951 took it to the streets and she said, I'm running, you got a problem with it? Too bad. She did. And as a result of that, doors opened. And guess who came out and followed after that? Mel King ran. John D. O'Brien ran. And guess what happened when John D. O'Brien? I remember John D. O'Brien. You know what happened when he ran? He won. And guess what? He became head of the school committee, right? How many of us remember some of that? Okay? That was that woman from Barbadian immigrants. And then there was this gentleman. I keep looking at one because you know what? I was just getting out of high school. Just out of high school when his daddy decided to run for mayor. And there was another gentleman who ran for mayor that year. His name was Melvin King. You know, born in 1928, parents immigrated from Barbados. Father organized the longshoremen on South Boston's waterfront. King served 5 terms as state representative in Lower Roxbury, first black man to win a primary, gathering 30% of the vote and 90% of the black vote. He did not win, but he made a statement that year, because I remember coming out of high school. Because see, I'm a kid of busing, right? And it told us that we belong too. And sometimes it's about letting us know that we belong too. And the only one who could tell us that is us. And he did that for us in this city. And he's still doing it for us in this city. Yes, Melvin King. Melvin King. Then there's another gentleman that I'm very close to, another immigrant. I'm gonna name Judge Nelson. Anybody remember David Nelson? Now, I feel particularly close to Judge Nelson, born in 1933, parents from Jamaica. Yeah, you see a theme here? We've been here. We've contributed. Judge Nelson, the first black federal judge appointed to the federal judge here in the state of Massachusetts. Judge Nelson, who the Catholic schools would not let in, but graduated from Boston College Law School and Boston College. I could attest to that because I had similar experiences, but I graduated from Boston College Law School. That's right. Judge David Nelson, and then became one of the most famous justices, and by the way, the first black man to serve on the Board of Trustees of Boston College. That was that immigrant heritage talking to you. We belong, and nobody can tell us any different, not some president. No. And many have paid the dues so we could sit here today. Do not waste their gift. Do not waste their gift. Do not waste their gift. Okay? So, there's some of us who came after. And I gotta let you go. Let me tell you something. Some of us came after the 1900s. Those who came in 1965 contributed as well. And don't forget Ken Guscott. Go down Blue Hill Avenue, Robina Scott. We could go on, but those were the domestics who came. They weren't domestics necessarily in their country. Don't get it twisted. Just because somebody come here and start cleaning some bathrooms and don't mean that's where they came from. It means they did what they had to do. It means they did what they had to do. They did what they had to do so I could be that lawyer, so you could be that engineer, so you could be that doctor. They decided they could sacrifice. Nothing comes easy. But the other thing they told us is freedom comes from here, not what somebody tells you. I own my freedom. I own my freedom, and we need to tell our kids to own theirs. Don't try to tell me Boston Public Schools are supposed to teach your children to be free. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to teach your children about this history. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And you're supposed to teach them to be free. If my kids tell me they can't do something, that makes me upset. Right, Bree? Don't talk to me about what you can't do. And I always say, if your grandfather could come here, leave all the things he did, come wash dishes, don't speak the language, take all the bullshit, and you tell me you can't do this, why not? No, we need to stop it. That's the spirit that immigrants bring. And we need to embrace it. Don't walk away from it. Do not walk away from it, because it is a gift that we bring. It is a gift that we bring. 28% of the population of the city of Boston are immigrants. We come from everywhere. Everybody talks about Africa. Africa's a continent. It's not a country. Okay? There's different languages. There's different languages, different cultures, different tribes, just like Europe. Not everybody from Europe is Irish. So let's stop the nonsense dance and celebrate the diversity that we are as people of Black African descent. That's it. You know, and I'm gonna leave you this. To control a people, you must first control what they think about themselves, how they regard their history and culture. And when you conquerors make you ashamed of your culture and your history, he needs no prison and no chains to hold you. He needs no prison and no chains to hold you. Why are we so ashamed to admit where we're from? I am Haitian American. I celebrate that. I can step next to and embrace my brothers and sisters who came from the South, who consider themselves Brahmin blacks, who consider themselves Jamaican, who consider themselves Antiguan, who consider themselves Sudanese, who Ethiopian. I can embrace you. I want you to embrace who you are. By the way, I don't like every Haitian. I don't. What's the problem? Stop the nonsense. Let's be real. Let's be real. Stop telling ourselves falsehoods that separate us from doing what we need to do. The bottom line is, our children need a good education. I don't care where you walk from and what you look like, they need a good education. The bottom line is, they need good jobs. And the bottom line is they need to be secure in their schools, and if we don't advocate for them, it won't happen. And we collectively, black, white, green, yellow, can do that together. But here's where we bond, people of African descent. We bond in the fact that we are connected by the experience of the Middle Passage. By the echoes and screams of those who wailed and we lost in the depths of oceans between here and the so-called New World. That's our bond. And we should never forget it. And we shouldn't pretend it didn't happen. But it should not be a block. We shouldn't use it as a crutch. In this country, it was built on there's a structural racism that exists. I'm not gonna walk away from that. I learned that as a kid real quickly. Yes, I did. But you can't let that guide everything you do, because what it's done is it blocks us from realizing the dreams that our ancestors fought so hard for us to realize. So I'm gonna leave you with this. Today, they try to say you can't come. They did the same thing in the 1900s. It's not the first time we locked the doors, whether it be on the Japanese, whether it be on the Chinese, but we put some in internment camps, and the Chinese, by the way, couldn't even get citizenship. So all this to say, it's not right, but don't be discouraged. Because what you do is you fight, and you continue to be vocal, and you continue to link arms with those who will work with you. Nothing happens on its own. It happens because we all pull together. And we always have collaborators. There's nothing that's happened for black people where other people didn't link arms with us. So I don't walk away from any of the brothers and sisters who want to work with me on anything. And by the way, the petty jealousies and the petty, it happens. I mean, I'm sorry, who's a kid who's of immigrant descent who didn't have problems in school? By the way, I was Frenchy. But you know this good English I'm speaking now? Didn't quite speak it in 1969. No. But I had to learn the King's English. Now come talk to me. Okay? I could speak it, I could write it. And that's what you need to do. Right? And once we do that, we do what we need to do to make certain that our children stand on our shoulders and move forward. We can't dig a grave and drive ourselves down and don't leave them any further along. We can't do that. So I beg you, stop the nonsense, black people. It's time for us to realize what we must be. And if in 1900s we were Too many of us were undereducated. Too many of us unemployed. Too many of us not in government. Too many of us not on jobs. And today, in 2018, we're still singing the same damn song. Then stop it. Let's pull together. Let's pull together. I don't have to like you to work with you. Stop the nonsense. I don't. But I do have a vision of where I want to go and what I want to see. And now it's about my progeny, your progeny. It's not about you anymore. You've had your turn. This is what we did. This is what we've delivered. It's about the future of our children and our grandchildren. So please, come together and let's get this done. Every form of true education trains the student to thrive. If it doesn't train you to thrive and does not train you to be self-reliant, you need to stop paying attention to it, because then it enslaves you. Enslavement is not simply about being locked up in chains. Nelson Mandela taught us that. And really freedom happens here. So, when we leave here today, if you're from Jamaica, if you're from Alabama, if you're from Haiti, wherever you're from, make sure you talk to somebody from someplace else. Because we need to know each other. Because as long as you make somebody the other, you can then not have to deal with them and their pain. So we are not the other here. Collectively in the city of Boston, we have the opportunity to move forward just like every other group that came. It is time. Let's make it happen. We are the dream and the hope of the slave.